Welcome to Modern Musings, conversations with the maiden, mother, and crone, looking at ourselves and the world through the lens of the 21st century. Hello, welcome back to our podcast. I am Amber Jones, and I'm here with Kristen Hessler and Cindy Murray.
Hi.
Hello.
So today we have kind of a fun episode. At least I think it's fun because it's one of my most favorite subjects. And, I'm an English teacher, but if I didn't teach English, I would totally teach science. But National STEM Day is coming up on November 8th.
Yay.
So we are going to talk about astronomy.
Yay. Not to be confused with
astrology. Yeah, astronomy, the celestial bodies. Yes. Something that I have been fascinated with since I was a child, looking up at the stars and wishing I wasn't on Earth. Just kidding. But, it has always been like a fascination, the thought of planets and things beyond Earth and worlds beyond Earth and the hope and dreams that we will discover actual life on other planets or just other, actually be able to travel to other sustaining planets in my lifetime.
Yeah, that would be really cool.
That would be like the ultimate dream.
To see a human step foot on another planet, to me.
Yeah,
I mean, we haven't even done that except for
the moon.
On the moon.
Yeah. To just step foot on Mars, even, or to just go beyond our solar system and hit another solar system and find life-sustaining planets on those, or even friendly alien contact. Although I'm one of those people that totally believes that, since we're such, kind of a rudimentary, a technology-wise world, I think that aliens have probably discovered us and they're hiding among us. But, I've watched a little bit too much Roswell when I was a kid. So,
one of my favorite shows.
Yeah, it's a really good show. But
the original. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't see the new one.
I didn't either. But I grew up watching Star Trek, so man was out in the stars and exploring all these new worlds.
Light speed, warp speed. Where is all of these things? Government, quit hiding all this stuff. Let's see it.
We got the iPhone though out of it.
Oh yeah, communicators. Yeah. Well, I always laugh because I grew up in this age. We used to play this role playing game called Traveler, and it's like Dungeons and Dragons. But it's sci-fi based. And so we had things like pocket computers and wrist computers and things like that. And I told my husband when they came out with the iPhones or the flip phones even, I said, we have pocket computers now. And then when they came out with the iWatch, we have wrist computers now. And those are like high-tech devices in our game, so it's kind of cool and off topic there, but yeah, I grew up, watching Star Trek, and my mind was to the stars as well. I wanted to, and I grew up in the age where we were exploring the moon. Men were first going to the moon when I was a child, and I really thought that we would continue that exploration.
What's up with that? We haven't. Funding. And that's crazy. I feel like the government's holding us back. That's kind of what's holding us back.
I think part of the problems are we have so many social issues, and we've had several wars, and those things kind of hold us back. But now that space has opened up, and this is really off the topic of astronomy, but I'd like to get this out there.
Well, space.
now that it has opened up commercially, now that we have SpaceX and all these other companies that are developing their own rockets and are flying to space.
Yeah.
I think we're going to start growing that sector again. And it won't be that much longer before we are exploring our own solar system and then trying to break that barrier of getting out of our solar system into other.
Thank you, Elon Musk. Yes, that's
I mean, there's a lot.
I know there are others.
Yeah.
But Elon Musk is like the most like you hear about him more than anything else.
Well, and then there's the Blue Origin with Bezos.
Yeah.
And I mean, there are quite a few commercial entities that are doing, building rockets, building spaceships, trying to get in, and it's commercial now. We recently had the first paid, astronauts, or not paid astronauts, but paid space travelers. People actually paid
customers.
Customers, yes, that's the word I was looking for. But they're doing like the first paid, first civilian spacewalks and things like that. So.
Well, I mean, it had to take that because we are so desperate for money and everything is just so money based that it had to take that.
Well, it's not actually as big of a field as you think. I think they need those paying customers to maintain.
Right.
So, sure.
But that's also what drives interest.
And that's really interesting that you mentioned that because I was talking to somebody today and we were talking about how I was in grad school, and he was talking about like his biggest wish would have been to be an astronomer, but you can barely get in that field because there's not enough
work.
Do you want to know how many astronomers there are in the United States?
I would like to know.
So, Career Explorer says that there is an estimated 2,400 astronomers in the United States.
How many?
2,400.
That's a very low number.
That's not even.
The job market is expected to grow by 8.3% between 2022 and 2032. We have to have a customer base in order to grow.
Right.
That.
To pay for them.
Consumerism America.
Right.
And that's what I was trying to say, that
for it to grow.
Yes.
And that's what I was trying to say is that it's that America is based on consumerism. Like if
capitalism.
there's
and all of
capitalism,
those
like
jobs
there's
you're
no
talking about,
money, then we're not gonna.
Those are all like rocket scientists, and
Right.
that's a whole nother.
That's
part
a whole
of that
nother
field.
part of it.
Just like the astronomers, the ones who are like mapping the stars and doing those type of jobs, the discovery.
Right.
That's the small portion.
Right.
That,
but it's growing because there's becoming more interest in looking for
that's
life-sustaining planets and things like that. So bringing this back around to the astronomy aspect of it, it is that is a growing field or a growing.
We're gonna need it. We're ruining our planet.
Right. Like
it's becoming kind of like it's in the future. It's gonna be kind of a desperate thing if we don't find other planets.
Well, we're almost beyond the point of no return on pollution in this.
I think
planet.
that we are beyond that point.
We're right there. We're right there at it. So scientists have been talking about it for a long time, and
there's like a big
the
denial.
Carbon buildup on this planet is so huge, and we're just almost at that point where it's just beyond being able to be reversed. So
we'd have to like build biodomes or like find other ways to do ecosystems outside of
we need a garbage dump that goes to a black hole where we can throw our garbage in the black hole. That is, we are going to get to the point.
But then we would be feeding the black hole, and the black hole would consume
get bigger
us.
and bigger, and it would consume us.
Have y'all ever seen the movie? It was with Kurt Russell called Soldier.
No.
And he got stranded on a planet in that movie that was a literal garbage dump. That's where other planets dumped their garbage. Right. They had to find a planet to get rid of their garbage. And like some humans got stranded there, kind of like he did, and so they had to make a way of life among other planets' garbage.
Wow. That's an interesting show.
No, it's a good movie. Y'all should check it out.
With Kurt Russell.
Yeah, it's called Soldier.
Interesting. And it's interesting when you think about like the immense amount of space. So astronomy is a very broad topic because it actually means anything outside of our Earth's atmosphere. It's the biggest topic, but it's also something that we know like the least amount about.
Right.
Like,
right.
I mean,
well, how do you how do you know unless you're there? You know what I mean? All of this is calculations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And man,
hopes and dreams, calculations.
Man has only ever set foot on the moon. So.
And it's only because we know that math is like solid. It's proven fact. Like when we math, it's accurate. So we can say like,
everything's math.
Yeah.
Everything's math. I used to tell my kids that
it's the universal
reading,
language.
but then I realized when my son became a mathist. He's a mathist.
A mathy. A mathy matherson.
There's another word for a
mathematician.
Well, no. There's another word for a mather.
He's a mather.
Yeah. But anyway,
we invented a word.
A person who maths. But there is a...
I am a person that doesn't math.
Yeah. Just kidding. But when I figured out that we started talking about things and realized that everything is math. Even reading is math.
Yeah.
And if you want to argue that with me, send me an email. I'll argue that with you. But even reading is math because it's symbols, and you assign values to the symbols, just like variables in math.
And you follow
words have numbers, and numbers have words, and then they're math is in everything.
Math
everything
is in everything we do.
Like when my students are like, "How am I gonna do math when I get out?" I'm just like, "You're gonna do math in everything."
Yeah.
Everything you ever do is going to be math-based.
I hate it when people say, I don't know why I have to learn algebra. I'll never use this. Oh, yeah, you do. You use it all the time. You just don't realize that's what you're doing.
Yeah, you're doing it subconsciously.
Well, because they teach you how to do...
sight reading.
Well, no, the sentence equations. Like, what do you call those? My brain, I'm old.
Story problems.
Story problems, yes, story problems, and you have to come up with the math equation from it, but that is math. So if you have to figure out how big your fence is on your backyard, or how much rope you need to hang your skeleton in your tree or whatever, your skeleton.
Oh my god!
Hang your skeleton in your tree. You're gonna rope up your skeleton.
Well, we used to have one at Halloween hanging in our tree, right? And so, you need to think of, those are all math problems. Those are all math problems. Do you want to start it over? Okay.
Yeah, Kristen's freaking out.
Find another analogy besides rope.
I was just thinking of rope.
How much fabric you need to sew your quilt.
Yeah. If you need to know, how big your fence is going to be, or how much fabric you need to sew your quilt, or how much binding you need for it, or how many yards of thread. Those are all
many tablespoons you need for a cake that feeds 50 people instead of
5. Yes, yeah. and how to divide that into cupcakes instead of a 3-layer cake or whatever.
Man, everything's math.
It's all math problems. And so don't tell me you don't ever use algebra, because those things are algebra. I used them when I aimed my satellite dish.
Even if you work fast food, you use math.
Yeah.
Yeah, your most basic job, you use math.
Often it's
in
algebra.
The car, you use math.
Often it's algebra. You're just not using x plus y equals. You're substituting x and y for, if I have this many people to feed and they're all going to eat 3 eggs, how many eggs do I need? That is algebra. Yeah. So, okay, I'm off my soapbox there, but I just, you mentioned that, and that just drives me crazy because she mentioned that, and it drives me crazy because people think you don't use math, And you use algebra every single day, and you just don't even realize that's what you're doing.
And that's all astronomy
and all
is.
astronomy
Physics,
is
math.
the math. It's the distance between the planets. It's the gravity. It's the speed of rotation. It's all of those things.
It's a cool math though.
Right.
I mean that was my favorite subject in college was astronomy.
I love astronomy.
Mapping the planets.
And last year we took our little trip to Marfa.
Yes.
And then while we were down there, we decided to visit the McDonald Observatory, which was
highlight of the trip.
Oh, that was a wonderful part of the trip.
Thing.
We did we just spent the whole day at the observatory. I think we came down off the mountain for lunch and then went back. But we did
solar viewing.
We did a solar viewing, which was the most fascinating thing to look at the surface.
I
of the
thought
sun.
that was probably
one of the
that
best
blew
parts.
my mind. Is that we were viewing the
actual
sun
surface of the sun,
in live time.
Yes, that was crazy. I loved that. And then we did a tour. And one of the things that I thought was really fascinating, Krista was talking about this before we started the podcast, and I wanted to make sure we brought this into it. We were talking about a lot of the education in the museum and that parts of the observatory is trying to educate people about light pollution. And they were talking about, like, when you live in a city like Dallas, there's lights everywhere, and you really can't see very many stars. And that's because the lights just kind of make this haze over it, and you can't see out of the haze. You have to have a dark sky in order to see the stars. And there are parts of the state of Texas and other parts of the U.S. that are designated as dark sky areas. And what it is they have regulations in those areas that require that lights be dealt with in a certain way to preserve the nature of the dark sky so that people can enjoy those stars. Because there are people who grow up in the city their whole life and they've never been able to see the stars, to really see the stars. You might pick out the Big Dipper or something like that, but when it comes down to realizing how many stars there really are out there, you can't. They have no idea. And until they get out in the country in a dark sky area, and then you realize that you can actually see bands of the Milky Way in which we live. It is not something we're looking at. It is something we are in the middle of. But you can see the stripes of it, going across the sky.
What's crazy is that is just our galaxy.
That is just our galaxy.
And there are estimated 2 trillion of those.
Right.
And ours is actually only about 52,000 light years across the radius. The largest one known to man is 1.9 million light years.
Wow, that's huge.
It's huge.
All those stars in that and all those galaxies. That's just mind-blowing to me. But like I said, the thing to me that is important is that maintaining that dark sky thing. And I learned some things, and particularly about just preserving and using light more efficiently. One of the things they talked about was, instead of having like your guardian light or your security light at your house pointing out and down your whole driveway, point it down at the ground, because it still illuminates the whole driveway, but it's not shining at your neighbor's house, because we don't need to illuminate our neighbor's house. We need to illuminate our driveway. And I have a neighbor who has a guardian light, and it shines directly into my house, and it drives me crazy. And
it comes in our bedroom window, and when our bed was on the other side of the room between the windows, like if the cats would get in the window and gap the curtains, the light would come directly in my eyes.
And the light works much better if it's pointed down, because then it's illuminating what's close to your house.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you
Which
want
is the
to light up.
purpose, yeah.
Yeah, you want to light up your car so that you can, people will see if somebody's getting into your car or whatever. So they have a whole thing of, I want to talk to them. I've considered emailing them to get some, maybe some brochures or some kind of printable or something that I could share with my neighbors during our what is that, meet the neighbors thing,
Neighborhood watch.
Yes, the neighborhood watch thing, when they have the turn your lights on and
National Night Out.
National Night Out. Thank you. I knew what it was. I'm just like, my brain is not going there today. But I thought that would be a really handy thing to share with my neighbors during that time, because it affects security of your home, but it's also more considerate to your neighbors, and it helps preserve that dark sky. I mean, it's not going to help that much here in the Dallas area, obviously, because we have, traffic and highway lights and big skyscrapers and all that kind of stuff. But every little bit that every person does, if one person could do one thing, that helps. One thing, just one thing.
For sure.
And so that's one of the things. But we also, there's all these dark sky areas, particularly in kind of the Midwest part of Texas and deep South Texas that are dark
like
sky
a lot
areas.
of the center-ish parts of Texas, for sure. All the ranch land and everything.
Right. Well,
very nicely dark skies out there.
Yeah, Central West Texas. Central Texas is like Austin, San Antonio. That's like wall to wall people. Yeah. But and just like here in North Texas, it's pretty much people everywhere. But when you start getting out west toward the central and west, going west, that's where it's big open spaces, dark skies.
That is one thing that I loved about living kind of out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Was being able to just sit outside on my porch and look up at the sky.
Well, I grew up in Lubbock, Texas, which is a, small size city. And even there, even though they have light pollution also, it was, I could still see quite a bit of stars that I can't see here in Dallas.
Yeah.
And I miss that. I really miss being able to look at the stars.
Honestly, when we first moved here, there were more stars that I could see than there are now.
Oh, well, yeah.
So
our
because
population has grown.
The light pollution. The light
getting
pollution.
worse. The light pollution has gotten worse and worse. So we're not just polluting our earth with plastics and trash and carbon. We're polluting it with light as well. And if you ever look at overhead, space views, satellite views of the earth is just lit up like a birthday cake.
Major metropolitan areas are just glowing.
You can see what they are. You can spot those cities, and some countries, some of the smaller countries in Europe and Asia or whatever, are like the whole country's lit up. Mm-hmm. So, it's huge. It's terrible. Yeah. But I do like looking at the stars. I like going out in the country. That's one of the things I love about camping. My husband always called it the TV show. This is the camping TV show. And we would just recline back in our chairs and watch the sky. And you can watch satellites going by. You can watch stars, planets, all kinds of things.
So, what is your favorite celestial body? Like, out of all the things in the sky, what are y'all's favorites?
Hole.
Black hole?
To me, that is like the
a fascinating
craziest, coolest, scariest thing.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely the scariest
it's terrifying.
Thing, for sure. I am, I have a couple here in our solar system. partially my namesake, so or kind of thing. The moon, and our maiden, mother, and crone. We are based on the moon phases. My name is Cindy, which is a shortened version of Cynthia, the moon goddess in, is it Greek mythology, I believe, or Roman? I can't remember. She was Diana also, but Cynthia, and she was the moon goddess. So I love the moon. I love staring at a full moon. I love moons. They're really cool. And I also am fascinated with Jupiter because of the storms and the colors and how massive it is. And Jupiter is the ruler of Sagittarius. So that is a kind of cool one. But
Jupiter's pretty cool. The big red spot that has always fascinated me, the perpetual storm.
But beautiful, as far as beautiful in our solar system, I think Saturn with its rings, which will apparently be not visible coming up soon because of the tilt of the planet, I believe. And so we're not going to be able to see them for a while. Y'all might want to fact check me on that, but I think I read something about that recently. And Neptune, I think Neptune is beautiful because of the color, or it's that blue kind of. It looks really cool. So yeah, the article, I just pulled it up really quick, and so Saturn's rings, as it goes around the sun, the rings temporarily disappear. I guess they don't reflect the light anymore or whatever because of the angle that they're at or whatever, every 29 and a half years, which is odd because the moon circles every 29 and a half days. No. But after March of 2025, they will become visible again, but will disappear again in November of next year.
Weird.
So they're kind of disappearing, and then they'll come back, and then they'll disappear, and they'll come back.
It's like Mercury in retrograde. Just keeps coming in.
Right. So, so.
Imagine just like monitoring.
Okay.
Saturn
it's actually
through your telescope.
I said that backwards. In March 2025, Saturn's rings will no longer be visible from Earth due to the planet's axis tilt. So if it'll align the rings to our perspective, so we'll be looking at them on edge instead of
like on the edge of a blade. Okay.
Right. Yeah. Instead of the flat of it. So, and then when it tilts back around, they'll be visible again. So. So I thought that was really interesting because I didn't.
But
even know that.
I mean, imagine looking in your rudimentary telescope of Saturn, and then you're like, I could have swore I saw rings around that the other day. Yeah,
right.
Did they just disappear? Like,
or what if you saw them first and it didn't have rings, and then all of a sudden it
all
did,
of a sudden
right?
They did.
So
appear,
I thought I thought that's kind of cool. I've always thought that the rings were a fascinating thing within our own solar system.
And what makes you wonder what other kind of. To me, that's an anomaly. But what other?
Well, I mean,
not. Yeah.
I think there are some slight rings around some of our other
planets.
But
yeah, Jupiter
just
and
makes you wonder, like,
Uranus.
What other kinds of things, and what kind of matter, would be, like ice or
that's what Saturn's rings
it's
are,
ice, but like diamonds or something.
Well, they postulate that the center of Jupiter is a diamond.
Oh wow!
That it's because a gas giant is like just a big ball of gas, but if it's compressing, the pressure of all that gas could be a diamond in the center. Yeah.
Well, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So,
what about you? What was your favorite?
I would say that Jupiter definitely has always fascinated me, and the many moons that Jupiter.
13.
Yeah. Oh,
have 13 moons?
More than that. Jupiter has.
Okay, don't state that. Don't state stuff if you don't know it. So, unless you can pull it up really fast.
Well, I mean, I just threw out a number because I thought it was.
Oh no, Jupiter has about 95 moons.
Oh, okay. Yeah, smaller ones.
Yeah, like they range from really small to like could possibly be planet-like moons.
like really small, like the size of Texas or the size of Rhode Island?
Oh, let me look.
Or like really small, like the size of Earth. And I mean, because Jupiter's huge.
Yes, Jupiter. Jupiter is pretty huge. I think the smallest is about 1 kilometer.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not very big at all.
Right, but it's still trapped in orbit around around Jupiter. I've always been fascinated with Europa, because that one is the one that people have postulated might
have life on it, under all of the ice,
right.
under that one. And then which one's the one? Is it Io, the one that's covered in volcanoes?
That's
yes.
so
Yeah,
cool.
see,
like these all look like fun travel destinations.
Like Jupiter's moons have always fascinated me ever since I was a kid.
Okay, but we're talking about Jupiter. Can we just talk about the giant storm?
I love that storm.
Yes, and
actually,
that one has
so
also
cool.
fascinated me
I
as
read
well. Like
somewhere
everything
that
about Jupiter.
The giant storm that we see now is not the same giant storm that people first saw or whatever.
Yeah, it's different, and it moves,
storm.
and it changes size,
it's
and
10,000 miles wide.
Right. Think of that. How
it's
big
1.3 times the width of Earth.
Yeah,
bigger than Earth. The Earth could fit in.
Well, I want to say that
the Earth could fit in that storm.
You could put 1 1/3 Earths in the storm.
That's
how big it is.
Well, you could put a lot of Earths inside Jupiter itself.
Oh well, yeah. Okay, so talking about the Earth's fitting in, it makes me think of 2001: A Space Odyssey.
You could fit 1,300 Earths inside of Jupiter.
That's
fun fact.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
Jupiter is fascinating, and it fascinates me more because I've read and watched all the Arthur C. Clarke stories, and my God, it's full of stars. So, I think it's fascinating. I really am. So, those are. But Kristen was talking about
black holes.
Black holes, and you had something fascinating about black holes.
Cool things about black holes.
You want to hear some words I'd never heard of before, but when you talk about a black hole, it is, something that's kind of sucking up everything around it, and
everything is falling into it.
Yes, and what's inside of it is like, you don't want to find out though, right? Like, it's my dying question. Like, I want to know, but I don't want to be the one to find out.
Well, they know what it is.
I know, but I know.
It's so highly compressed that at some point it will just keep absorbing things and keep absorbing things, and probably is what created the Big Bang.
But the thing that's
place.
insane about it is that, like, as you get closer to it, like, time warps and stuff.
Yes.
So you wouldn't, if you think about conceptually, like, with time, like, you wouldn't ever actually get to it if it keeps slowing down. Like, I mean, you would.
Theoretically.
But would you notice?
Theoretically, yeah.
Yeah. Would you even notice that you got there? Some interesting things. So,
the pressure would be too big for you.
Exactly. And that's the thing I'm saying is that, like,
crushed.
You would want to experience it, but you wouldn't.
Right.
So, one of the things, this is a real term from NASA, spaghettification.
Spaghettification.
And what is
that?
You become
the
spaghetti?
The intense gravity of a black hole stretches matter into a thin ribbon.
Oh, yeah.
Similar to spaghetti.
Yeah.
So you become spaghetti.
Yeah. So if you were going in feet first, your feet would be stretched more than your head because your head's taking longer to get there than your feet.
Yeah.
That's terrifying to me. Like, that's...
You would be dead long before that.
I know, but it's terrifying.
Yeah.
So, superheating... squeezing and pancaking, so other different methods of being squished and swirling, and then here's another term, event horizon. That's the point of no return.
Right. Like if you get to that, then you're sucked into the black hole.
Yeah, it's too late. You don't have enough power
and
to
it's
get
growing.
out of it.
It's constantly growing as well.
Yes.
Because the more mass that the black hole absorbs, then the bigger or the closer that.
Yeah. And so it's interesting. Singularity is another term, and that is the dimensionless point with infinite density at the very center of the black hole. And to me, that is like, what is that?
Right.
Like, what is it?
It's beyond our ability to fathom. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it actually is.
It's everything and nothing.
If you're a Star Trek fan, you're a Star Trek fan, 7 of 9 talked about the Borg almost worshiping quantum singularities because they are perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
nothing interesting.
Nothing can touch it.
Yeah.
It is the apex predator of the universe.
Yeah. And they were fascinated with it. So, yeah.
And so here's the thing about black holes. Because we live in the Milky Way, right?
Right.
Remember, there's yada yada number of galaxies, right? There's 2 trillion galaxies. There's,
however many
billions,
stars.
100 billion stars in our galaxy, and ours is a small galaxy, right? So we're talking like a number that doesn't even you don't even have a piece of paper long enough to write.
Brain cannot compute that number. Right.
And according to current estimates in the Milky Way alone, there's over 100 million black holes. So we're just surrounded by these landmines that are going to suck us up.
Well, but
I know, but they're not because they're really far away. But,
right.
I mean, you're talking about I want to go explore space, but how do you even know you've come across? Well, I mean, you would know you come across.
Well, you would start to feel gravitational.
I know, but it's terrifying.
And they plotted them. They know where they are. You would avoid whatever that event horizon is. You would know
where
that line was.
I know,
so the nearest black hole to us is about 1,560 light years away.
Yeah, that's a long way off.
Mm-hmm.
That's a long way off.
And it's called Gaia BH1.
Okay.
But yeah, I find black holes very cool because they're just different from all of the other bodies in the universe. You have all the stars, gas balls, right?
Yeah.
Floating around. And then you got Jupiter, and then you got planet Earth that's got, water and land, and it's spinning around with its perfect climate conditions that have people.
For our life, yes.
Yeah, for our life. And then you have black holes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And now there's other things in space too, like the immense amount of nothingness.
Right.
And that's crazy to me.
Well, and there's theories about dark matter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or antimatter, as some people call it. So, yeah. We don't know. It's very interesting. It is. So I have another question. We asked about our favorite celestial body. Do you have a favorite?
What's those round things that float in the sky? No.
Do you have a favorite constellation?
Oh, constellation.
Gosh, thinking back to that star party and looking at all those constellations. Ever since I was a kid, I've always loved rabbits. So the Lepus constellation.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. I didn't even know that one. I didn't. So.
I specifically had because I had those glow in the dark stars on my ceiling, and I put them in constellations on my ceiling.
I know other people,
and I put Lepus up there for sure.
Yeah. What about you, Kristen?
So I love constellations, and I love the folklore.
And that was what I was getting at with it as well.
So I always loved Cassiopeia. And then what's the onion one?
That's the Pleiades, and that's my favorite one. The Seven Sisters.
Yeah, that one's a really good story. To me, though, it's I see the value in like the folklore and the stories, but when you think about it with the grand scheme of the universe, like that is such a like 1 point perspective.
Yes.
Because that all of that is irrelevant when you're in a
you're thinking in 3 dimensions. Yes.
Yeah. Because that's all around you, and once you're not being surrounded by it and you're coming at it from a different angle,
right?
None of those constellations make those arrangements. They look completely different. And to me, like
my point though was that the constellations are often what draws people to astronomy in the first place.
Right.
Those stories. Mm-hmm. And that's how you entice children.
Big Dipper and Little Dipper.
Big Dipper, Little
First
Dipper,
thing
Orion.
They recognize. Orion's belt. I love Orion's belt too.
Taurus, the Pleiades, the Cassiopeia. Those are so easy. Or if you're, in the Southern Hemisphere, the Southern Cross. They're so easy to spot and to teach and to learn that, and then those become what entices children to be interested in those. And telling the stories helps them remember what they are. Even if the stories are irrelevant to our culture now. Mm-hmm. I mean, for the Romans and the Greeks and the native peoples of the U.S., Aboriginal peoples, those stories were important in their culture, but they're not as important to our day-to-day lives now. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, but I think that the idea of constellations and being able to spot them and identify them is like one of the first steps in intriguing children to pursue.
Yeah, especially when you're talking about STEM and how important it is for us to continue to instill like the values of
and I like to, that's your first step, going out in the backyard and trying to spot some of those things that are easy to spot. And then the next step is to go to these star parties where people have their little telescopes set up or whatever. Maybe get a telescope yourself and set one up and just see what you can see. And then going to somewhere like McDonald Observatory or in West Texas, the Comanche Springs Astronomy campus there. It's a part of a dark sky initiative out there, and they have all these telescopes and they have star parties, and you just go out and they aim at things and they educate. That's their whole purpose, is to educate people. And that's just one more way to dig into that and to learn more and develop that love. And if we're talking about STEM, that's the way you do it. Now, Kristen, you said something about the different branches of astronomy.
Oh yeah. So, when you're talking about astronomy, it is not just
flat out astronomy. Yeah, it's
broken. Well, it's basically everything that's not on Earth in our atmosphere. So, there are different types of studies in astronomy. So there's 4. It can be divided into 4 fields. So there's astrophysics, which is applying the laws of physics in space. Mm-hmm. And so that's like how we know, centripetal force is what makes our planet spheres and not cubes.
Right.
Or flat Earth.
Right.
And then we have this one's hard to say. Astrometry. I know. Every time I read it, I want to say astro. It's astrometry, which is mapping the celestial bodies.
Okay.
And then there's astrogeology, which I think I would love because I love geology. Uh-huh. And that's examining the rocks, the terrain, the material in space.
Okay.
And then the last one, which is the one I think I would love even more, which would be astrobiology, which is searching for life outside of Earth.
So they're studying these planets and exoplanets or whatever and looking for the things that would sustain.
There would be markers in the planet too. So
Right.
like when you're talking about biology, you're looking at like
signs of water.
Yeah, the signs of water and the signs of like
an
decay,
atmosphere, because not all planets have a true atmosphere.
Yeah.
And they have to be, a certain distance from the sun in order to be in the temperate zone or whatever.
Well, that's what I was telling Amber is I think that sometimes we also think about like because only we can survive on this planet and the animals that live here can survive in the temperatures. Like, okay, you take a fish and you put it on land, it's not going to survive, right? And if you put a person underwater and expect them to live, they're not going to survive. But we do believe that evolution plays a big part in that.
This is true.
And things become adaptable. The planet Earth has not been the same temperature this whole time.
True.
And we've had different phases, stages, right?
Right.
And so in those different stages, we had different climates and different situations with different living animals, right? That didn't all coexist all at the same time, right? The humans and the dinosaurs, we haven't been able to say that we're all here at the same time, right?
Exactly.
So what's to say that another planet, maybe not in our star system, but maybe another planet that's a little closer to their sun or a little further away from their sun can't sustain life, like on a frozen planet.
Right.
And then you also have to think about our little world. We're kind of peachy over here because our sun is a certain size.
Right.
It emits a certain amount of heat and light.
Right.
Right? Because you also have to think about not just the temperature, but the radiation that we get from our sun. Because it causes cancer.
Right.
So just imagine if it was just a little bit bigger, we would all be toasty fried.
Right.
Like the conditions here are like very ideal. And one little tweak, that's why we have like the seasons,
right?
And they're so vastly different.
Well, and that's why the damage that we're doing to our Earth is so critical to be changed, because these slight little changes in temperature will eventually add up to something that is not sustainable.
I mean, 2,000 years from now, it could very well be an arid desert wasteland. Yeah.
We don't know.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Or an ice age because
we've clouded it up with
messed
all the
up the
carbon.
Oh yeah, think about all of the pollutions in the sky that block the sun from the plants that can't grow because all the plants that need extra sun aren't getting enough.
Right.
And that's scary.
Then there's no oxygen left, and there's no it's everything's messed up. Yeah.
So here we're like thinking about exploring space, but then we can't take care of our own planet.
Right.
So it's kind of like, I want to explore space,
which is
also,
the argument of the people who want to defund space programs, because they're talking about there's so many problems here on Earth that need to be solved first.
We can't even feed all the people
we can't feed all the people. We can't give medicine to all the people. We've got, dictators and, can't get medicine all the way around the world.
Boy, golly, if we got too far from home and we stumbled across some aliens, do we really want them to meet us right now? Like, are we really, like, socially
ready for that?
Yeah.
And would we be able to defend ourselves if needed?
Right. So, no, definitely not.
So, there's a lot to think about there as well. So
I'm sure there's so many things in space that we haven't even covered.
Oh, I know.
Just because, I don't know, like, astronomy is it's too vast.
Right.
There's so much.
It's a big topic. It is a big topic. And we've kind of gotten off topic with a lot of things that are astronomy adjacent or whatever. And so that kind of makes it hard too, because it's hard to talk about astronomy without talking about light pollution or the reason why astronomy is important. Because the reason it's important is because we have so many problems
here. I just thought of one. I know. Sorry, I'm going back to
you're fine.
The 4 groups of study, because I know that there was astrobiology, but can break that down even further into like astrobotany.
Oh,
right. So because I know that's, right now we're just looking for life in general.
Right.
And
or the not even looking for life, but the possibility that there could be,
and at some point hopefully we'll be able to have astrobiology to study other plants,
planetary biology, or
and not just like how do we grow corn in space, but like, oh, look at this whole nother like species of plants.
Plant. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
And here's
the plants
that
develop on other planets.
Right. So here's I don't even know if this is like even possible, but okay. So we have animals, plants, fungi, and then what are the other ones?
Bacteria, viruses, and
amoebas, like single cell. Right. What are those? I forget. The ones I don't like to think about. Gross. Right? Single cell organisms. And so we have those, right? The 5 groups. Right?
Oh, there's more than 5 now. There's like
plants, animals, fungus.
No, everything breaks down into those 5 things. On planet
there's like
Earth.
7 things now.
Okay, what are they? Read them.
There's like 7 kingdoms now.
Kingdoms, that's...
Yeah.
That was the word I was looking for.
Oh, shit, there's like 9.
Oh, really? Well, yeah, because they used to think that the fungi were plants, and they thought that the bacteria and stuff were animals, but but now they're not.
6 kingdoms, my bad, not 7.
Okay. Read them, please.
Let's see. Animals, plants, fungi, protists.
What? Those are single-celled organisms.
Yeah.
Okay.
Archaea and bacteria.
That? Okay, that's the one I don't know. What's archaea?
Archaea these are microorganisms. They lack cell nuclei.
Oh.
And are therefore prokaryotic. Archaea are initially classified as bacteria, receiving the name archaebacteria, but this term has recently fallen out of use. They have different properties from bacteria.
Interesting.
So, my wondering is, okay, that's known on our planet,
right? What if there's something else on other planets?
Yeah,
a whole new
classification, a whole new kingdom of something else.
Yeah,
because like when we think about aliens, that would be an animal,
right?
And then you think about aliens living on a planet
with
alien creatures and plants. Those would be plants and animals, and then we have fungi, so that's kind of weird in its own, honestly. Like that's like the alien on our own planet is fungi. So I think like, my brain wants to imagine something, but I can't conceive it. Oh, so there's got to be something that we can't conceive it. We couldn't even imagine it existing.
Like the cell structure is so foreign from ours.
Like rocks that have eyes. I'm going out there.
Wow.
Hey,
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But if they live without like cells.
Yeah.
If
if
they're like plasma. Like if you think about that, a living being that's just all plasma that's not made out of cells.
You've been watching the Orville, haven't you?
I have been watching way too many of all of those kind of shows.
Right.
I love Star Wars, Star Trek, Orville.
Because there's like a big gloop guy on Orville that's,
Well, there was a gloop creature on Star Trek, too. Remember it killed Tasha Yar.
Well, Orville is a spoof of Star Trek,
I know that.
so
Yes.
Yeah. But there's that I wonder that would be like the ultimate discovery is like not just, we found other plants that don't exist or other minerals. Because I'm imagining also like our periodic table of elements expanding.
We're discovering it's already expanding. We find new things all the time.
Yeah.
And we've created new things. So
there's like a whole section of ones that we've created.
Right. So.
Okay, but let's just stick with creating minerals and not living beings.
Well, I mean, we did clone that sheep.
Dolly.
But she was an animal. Yeah. We just grew her from cells.
This is true.
So anyways, that was me just, me being me over here.
Well, I wanted to bring up one last thing.
You're thinking fifth dimensionally.
I wanted to bring up one last little thing that we talked about before the podcast, and I was hoping we'd get to it, but we never did. But I wanted to talk about the hypothetical planet X.
Oh, yeah.
So we actually were talking about, do we have 8 planets, 9 planets, 10 planets?
Well, like it's so funny because when all three of us, when we were a kid, and I was gonna say, when I was your age, there were 9 planets.
There were 9 planets.
And then Pluto got kicked out of the planet thing.
Well, and he got it. Pluto. He
gained some brothers.
He got out, and then he came back in, and then he went back out again, and then there's some more. So there's several of what they're calling dwarf planets, or there's another word for them, but I can't remember what it is.
No, I think they're called dwarf planets. Yeah.
Or pseudo planet. Maybe that's what the
maybe
other one,
so. Yeah. There's Pluto's one of 5 of those now.
And then there's also theoretically a planet X, which now they're calling it Planet 9 because Pluto is not a planet. So instead of being X for 10, it would be Planet 9.
Yeah.
But they think there may be a 9th planet because it could explain some of the strange movements that they see in some of the other objects out at the far edges of the solar system. And it's this not really a new hypothesis because back in 1846 when they discovered Neptune, it was because astronomers were looking for another planet that would explain why Uranus had some orbital irregularities. So they knew there had to be another planet out there that was affecting Uranus's orbits. And so they went looking and they found Neptune. And now that's the same thing. There's all these objects out in the far reaches of the solar system that have some kind of irregular orbits. And the only thing that would cause those irregular orbits is mass from something else. And so they're still looking for what they believe to be Planet 9. And this is it's pretty hotly debated. There are people who go, no, that doesn't exist. But there are people who believe that it does. So I had to bring that up there because it may turn out to be someday in our lifetime that we go back to having 9 planets and the 9th one is not Pluto.
And then they'll decide to bring the dwarf planets in.
Right.
And then there'll be 14.
Yeah. So.
And to me, I'm like, if it's a dwarf planet, then it's a planet.
It's still a planet. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a smaller than normal planet.
Right. Yeah.
They're discriminatory against those planets.
A dwarf star is still a star.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So they're discriminating against those 5 planets.
I think they're just focusing too much on
the label.
Yeah. And
then it has to be a certain size to be classified as a planet.
I'm like, let's just branch out and look a little further away from home.
Right. Yeah.
You're overanalyzing too close to home.
All right.
Okay. Well, guys, that was a great discussion.
I know, I enjoyed that.
What are we talking about next week?
Well, next week we are discussing World Diabetes Day.
Oh,
so we're going to be talking all things diabetes.
That's an important one to talk about. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. All right.
Okay. Well, guys, please contact us about this. Check our Facebook page. Send us an email. Let us know what your favorite celestial body is and your favorite constellation is.
Go check us out on our website at www.modernmusings.net.
Yes, and send us an email and let us know all of the things, and we'll get back with you next week.
Bye.
Bye.